Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your hosts from Hard Money Bankers, Jason Balin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the show. We do appreciate it. Today we're talking about being proactive to close more deals, because the reality, and if you're listening to this and actively lending, you might be feeling so far in the first quarter of this year, we're just in the very beginning of April 25, the market's been a little different. We're gonna not dive too much into market stuff today. We're more talking about how we proactively adjust our strategies internally so that we can get deals to the table, because it's not always the same. It's not always just taking an order.
Yeah, listen, in a perfect world, it'd be great that, somebody calls you on the phone and says, hey, I got this deal, can you close? And you're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, send me so-and-so and I'll get this closed. And there's been times in the market when that happens, and, there's signs that might happen again. We've had some really, really good deal flow and calls come in the last 30 days. But, in reality, you got to work a little bit harder for deals like that. And you got to be proactive, right? And one thing we always tell our team is do not email back and forth. Do not negotiate back and forth. Do not have a conversation back and forth via email or chat. Get on the freaking phone and talk to them and figure out what's going on. It's not just saving time, but it's building a relationship to do it. And in a perfect world, if you're new, get out to the property and meet them, or go meet them in person. And yeah, you don't want to just waste time and meet people that aren't going to get anywhere. But at some point, if it's a deal that potentially is going to work, get out in front of them and meet them. So what we do, and it's very simple. Somebody sends us an email. They fill out a loan application, or wherever the case. We get referred by somebody. Typically, we're like, hey, what time? What's a good time to call, and we'll chat. If they come through our one of our lead portals to our website, or from our chat bot that we have on our website, which is a really good lead generation tool as well. If somebody calls and we miss their call and they don't leave a message, we'll try to text them or call them back to get them on the phone. The point being is get them on the phone and have a conversation with them to see what they're looking to do and build relationships. You'll be so surprised. You're not going to win deals over email. Terms are going to be too high. You're not going to build that relationship. You got to get on the phone and do it. So that's step one, is get them on the phone as quick as possible and just go through their scenario. You don't have to commit to them if you want to do the deal at that point, but get them on the phone, build a relationship, see what they're looking to do, and then you can kind of, move it along.
So what do you think happens after that in terms of follow-up process? Like, say you have a good conversation with somebody, you get them on the phone, you talk about the deal, talk about the terms, go through the scripting that we've been over many times, and they're like, okay, yeah, that'll probably work. What does it look like after that usually? In terms of tracking people, reaching out again, because it's typically not like a one and done.
So you can never leave an appointment with your next appointment unscheduled. You always need to determine what the next steps are going to be and how you're going to follow up and calendar it for them. So it's not like, hey, I'm going to get, let me take a look real quick and I'll get back to you to see what I can do. Like, what time are you, put it on their calendar so they know that you're going to be calling at that particular time. So it's official. It's not like, oh, let me see what I can do, and we'll circle back in a little bit. That's not only is that not professional, that's nothing concrete. You want to put something in concrete so they know that at 4:00 Jason's going to call me back and we can go over loan terms to determine if we can do it or not. So that's an easy tip, easy hack that so many people aren't doing. It's just okay, I'll follow up with you soon type of situation. Well, there's not really any concrete to that. That might just show okay, well, let me go shop around or make some other calls. And, I'm very proactive about, hey, listen, this definitely seems like it's a deal that I can do. I got to run some numbers to see if that works. We're just happening to record this at 12:50. So I'm just going to use this time for this conversation. But let's say I'm talking to somebody on the phone and be like, let's do this. I can get back to you real quick on this. Let me run some numbers. Give me till 2:00 and I'll call you back. Just do me a favor, put on your calendar 2:00. We'll get that appointment set up and I'll call you right at 2:00 and we'll go over kind of next steps. So I'm always kind of finishing one appointment to get to the next one and line them up of what to expect. If there's some due diligence that I need help with, I'll give you an example. Like if they don't know some of the answers to some of the questions, right, that they have, they're like, oh, I need to call my realtor. I need to ask this or this. Like, no problem. When do you think you're going to do that? Great. I'll call you back at 2:00. Let's schedule our next meeting for 2:00. We'll call back then, and I can get that information from you, right? You always kind of want to just keep the ball rolling forward until they commit to proceed. And also, so they always know what the next step is.
Another thing I was thinking about when you were talking as we move down the sales process a little bit more is, so for our team, for the HMB team, the close is always when you get the inspection fee paid. Typically on resi deals, $400, not a huge thing, but if they pay that, they're moving forward, right? And so we have dabbled with taking that payment over the phone. Historically speaking, we would send them a term sheet, a link to our website where they can make a credit card payment for $400 and then we're in. But we've also dabbled some of our team with, okay, that sounds good verbally. We're going to paper it. Let me take that payment from you now so that we can schedule the inspection. And then you do the term sheet by email after the fact. But getting that payment over the phone, I think, could be a good hack for people to convert more, right? Like anytime you get off the phone, you have a chance of losing them.
Yeah, no, that's right. You want to get these deals shut down as quick as possible. And that doesn't work on every deal. Ideally it'd be great if you can. It's some deals are more challenging than others, and that's okay. The point is you want them to be committed to proceed, right? Like we want them to sign our term sheet. We want them, one of the things that we do in our process is, I'll get off the phone with somebody and they're excited about the deal. We're excited about the deal. And I say, hey, do me a favor. Send me over your purchase contract real quick. Let's say it's a fix and flip. Send me over your purchase contract real quick. Then I'll have all the information I need. The exact name of the buyers, the exact purchase price, the title company information, your earnest money deposit. And then I can put together, our actual term sheet, outline everything. So all the numbers are, end up being, as accurate as possible. And by them finishing the call with me, emailing me the contract, that shows that they're motivated. And then us putting the term sheet together. We've mentioned this before. Like we are not sending borrowers anything, almost anything, definitely not a term sheet unless they verbally commit that they can proceed with the numbers that we discussed. You never, ever, ever get off the phone with someone and be like, oh, well, let me send you a term sheet and let me know if this is something you can do. It doesn't work like that. It's like, cool, based on the numbers. And if you got to do this as a 1-part call, 2-part call, 3-part call, that's fine. No problem. Right? If you need to do additional due diligence, but typically the norm is like a 2-part call where part 1 is getting all the information, making sure they have enough cash to put into the deal. Right. And if they only have $20,000 in their name, like we can't really do anything unless they have cross collateral, cash partners, things like that. But let's just assume that they have enough funds and enough cash into the deal. The next, typically I'll end it with like, hey, listen, can you just do me a favor? Send me over the purchase contract real quick, just so I can verify some of the numbers. I'm going to pull some comps real quick. I'll call you back at this particular time, put it on your calendar. And usually I try to do it quick. Like sometimes it's 15 minutes. Be like, hey, I'm going to call you back in 15 minutes. If I can. You want to move as quick as possible, because if you can move quickly on the approval process, they know you can move quickly on the closing process. So, I'll call it, so I'll look at comps, make sure I'm comfortable with them. I'll call them back and say, hey, Jim, I took a look at everything based on what we talked about originally. Those numbers are fine. That works. Like we discussed, we can do a loan of $150,000. Needs $50,000. $50,000 of that's towards the holdback. So $100 towards purchase, $50 towards construction. You're going to need $55,000 cash to close. We'll make this real easy for you. I know you have to close on the 10th, 8 days from now. Whatever, 4 to 5 days from now, whatever the number is. Let's does that work? And, we'll get this thing moving real simple. I'll even call the title company as soon as we get off the phone, and I'll get that title ordered for you if you need me to talk to a real estate agent or something like that, right? Like very, very, very proactive. And, typically they'll say, yep, let's say they say no or they say yes, right? So if they say yes, then it's like, no problem. Make sure you send me over the purchase contract so I have that info on that. I'll send this over to you. And I'll do the term sheet. I'll send that over to them quick as possible. I'll email them the term sheet, and then I'll text them and say, hey, Jim, just want you to know, just confirm with me that you got the email with the term sheet. I know you got to move quick. If you can get all that stuff back to me later today, tomorrow morning, that'd be great, type of thing, right? So that would be the first step of being proactive. And I mean, we can keep going on this path of what ends up happening. But the ones that I'm not getting back kind of the next business day, if that's in the afternoon, I'm not getting them back the next business day, then it's go time, right? They're on the call sheet. Call them, text them, email them. Just want to make sure you got this. Got any other questions? I know you got to move quick, blah, 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 blah. I'm doing that right now on a deal, and this one's pushing further out than I would like it to, and it's driving me crazy. But I'm very obsessive about keep them moving, because if you send a term sheet out to somebody and they don't get back to you in 2 days, there's a very good likelihood that something else is going on behind the scenes, and you've got to figure out what that likelihood is. It could be that they got an extension on the contract. They don't have an urgency anymore. It could be that they're waiting on another lender to confirm that they can do cheaper terms, but figure that out. And even if you got to send kind of direct text message and be like, hey, listen, because we have a 3-day on our term sheet, they have 3 days to execute it, or we can renege on it type of situation. So throughout that process, we're proactive with them, and I'm like, hey, listen, if you're not looking to move forward with it, it's not a problem. Just let me know either way, so I stop harassing you. Things like that. There's a guy right now that literally it's hard to get a hold of, and then I'm thinking he's shopping around and has to close next Wednesday, I think, in a week or whatever. And every day I'll send him something similar to that, and he'll get back to me like, yeah, man, sorry, I got to get his brother's on the LLC as well. He's like, I just need to get my brother's name on there as well. And I'm like, dude, do me a favor. Just pay this $400. I can get Dave out to your property later today to do the inspection, and then get your brother, sign your end, get your brother to sign, when you can in the next few days type of things. Whatever I can to just, I need something from them to physically show that they're 100% in. And right now he's 80% in. I need him to be 100% in, because we're not working on this thing until he is. I'm not going to, I'm not going to start spending resources and time to do that, because I know that 80% in will eventually be all out. So he's got to be 100% in. And, I'm keep pushing until we get to that point. And it's not a real deal until he is.
And it's part of the process. You're keeping a spreadsheet. Some people might use CRMs of follow-up people of these people verbally committed. They should be moving forward. They owe me stuff. You got to get in or out. That's you're in or out, right?
Yep. Yeah, they're in and out. And typically on a fast close, if you're not getting the communication you want, it's typically because they're probably trying to see if they can shop this thing around a little bit. But then eventually it's going to get to the point where, and I know this will happen with this guy, or I'm pretty sure this is going to happen with this guy, where in essence he'll be like, oh, here's my brother's signature. Here's the payment. Cool, we got to close. We're ready to go. Meaning now he's mentally all in. He's not all mentally in now right now. He sent me a lot of stuff. He said, he had a decent analytical personality type. So he sent me bank statements and a lot of things, a lot of further along due diligence stuff that normally you would get up front that I have. I just don't have a signature on a page and the PayPal, which is the two most important things. I don't even care about that other crap that he sent me. I mean, it's great that he sent it and he was proactive about it, but there's something preventing him from fully committing. And I'm having a hard time getting him on the phone, texting with him. And that doesn't mean that he's necessarily a bad borrower. I think people don't like telling people no, right? He's a little scared that I'd be upset about it. So he's kind of just yeah, I'll give you another example of what we did. He was like, yeah, I can't get, I'm having a hard time get, my brother works, blah, blah, blah. I just need to get him to sign type of situation. And I'm like, cool, I'll do an e-sign for you. And I sent that to him. So it's kind of a unique one. And I think his intentions are fine. And I don't think he's necessarily being shady or lying. He's just, he doesn't fully want me knowing that he's shopping around, which is so be it. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
Yeah, I mean, they're bringing a lot of money. It's a $290 loan, I think, and they're bringing $100,000 to the table, something or so.
Yeah, they can be shopping that. It happens. Part of the game. No, it's been interesting to see. I'm always curious to see behind the scenes of other people's businesses, but there aren't a whole lot of private lenders like us putting out this kind of content, so I don't totally know outside of the people who we directly work with in consulting and stuff like that. I'm always curious about that, their sales process and other back end sorts of things, and also just how lenders out there after the first quarter of 25 have been making adjustments, because things are pretty good for private lenders right now. I feel like we're obviously keeping an eye on the market. the residential real estate market, that is, and everything else going on economically. But I'm curious to see how people are adjusting. So if you haven't done so already, join us inside hardmoneymastermind.com and the other 2,600 private lenders in there. Join the conversation.
Let me add one more thing. I want to add one more thing before we close this thing out. One other thing that I was talking to somebody on our sales team with yesterday, which I think makes a lot of sense, is keep in mind that most deals that you do are for people that don't work the same types of hours or out of an office like you do, right? So like they might have a 9-to-5 full-time job, doing something else. They might be a full-time contractor on site. They might be a full-time real estate investor on site. They're not sitting in an office like we might be harassing people to sign a document or go on the internet and pay a valuation fee. To me, it's like,
they could be on job sites all day.
Yeah. Hey, go do it. It takes 5 minutes. Just do it and it'll be done. And then we can proceed. So like, you got to explain that to them and even ask them sometimes, like, what their turnaround. Hey, if I send you this term sheet, how quickly can you get it back to me? Like, but some people forget that sometimes because, we're just sitting in an office and we send a term sheet out and then we're good. Those guys might be, I talked to this guy the other day and he was like, dude, I'm on a roof the rest of the day doing this thing. I promise I'll get this to you when I get home. So, And that's fine. And then maybe they're tired when they get home. So just take that stuff into consideration and just communicate with them based off that.
All right, everyone, that is the pod for today. We do appreciate you listening or watching, and we'll see you next time on the Private Lenders Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.